welcome. Thanks for joining us today. As Marika already said, my name is Ben. I'm the Director of Education at UCG, and I would like to talk a little bit about our program today. So, as Director of Education, I mainly think about two very important questions for you, and that is what do we teach in our program and how do we teach it? And those are the two questions I would like to talk about today to you. As Marika already said, please feel free to use the chat box, put any questions in there that you have, and we'll find a moment to discuss those questions afterwards. So the first and important question is, what is a liberal arts education? This is a question that our students get asked a lot, right? And the first thing I want to do is I want to find out whether you're well prepared to answer this question if you would get it from your friends, your parents, your grandparents, what it is that you're studying. So does anyone already have an idea what a liberal arts education is? Maybe you can put some things in the chat. I'll see whether I see some things that align with what I have in mind. Can anyone try to put something there? Okay, broad education curriculum. Anyone else? Any ideas? What is liberal arts for you? What does it mean? An education in which you are free to choose, complex mix of disciplines, broad-minded people, interdisciplinary learning. This sounds very much like what we want to do. Very good. You're well prepared. So, as you probably also know, liberal arts education has quite a long history. And it dates back to antiquity, where the idea of this education was to develop critical citizens who are able to tackle the problems of their time. And the curriculum already then was very interdisciplinary, but it was not only about the curriculum, also how education happened was special as in the liberal arts education. And that is, education typically happened in small groups with close relationships between teachers and students. And our own liberal arts and science program at UCG is built on this tradition. So we do offer a very broad program. We give you a lot of freedom to explore, but also to specialize or mix different academic disciplines together depending on what you are interested in, what your personal academic curiosity, where it lies. And we think that this program will also prepare you to tackle the complex problems that our society faces today. And it will also give you access to a large range of different master programs and prepare you very well for all kinds of personal challenges that you will encounter in your job life. So at UCG, we have a number of fields of study, scientific disciplines, where our education is really focused on. And these fall into three very broad categories: the humanities, the social sciences, and the sciences. Within the humanities, we offer a lot of courses in philosophy, as well as literature and culture. In the social science, we offer courses in law, politics, psychology, economics, and international business. And in the sciences, we offer courses in neuroscience, health and life science, and disciplinary artificial intelligence. And as I said before, this course offering, you have a lot of freedom in building your own program out of it. So it might be that you really would like to specialize in health and life science so that you can work towards admission into a master programs. And that's possible, right? You can really design a very focused program on this, right? But at the same time, you can also build more broad and interdisciplinary programs. So maybe what you're interested in is political decision making and the economic and ethical consequences that arise out of this, right? And then maybe you want to combine disciplines like politics, economics, and philosophy into your own PPE program, right? PPE is a very kind of well-known interdisciplinary program with a long tradition. And if you are interested in something like this, you can build it out of the building blocks that our program offers. Maybe you're also interested in getting a really deep and understanding of the human mind, of the brain, of behavior of people. And then you could build your own cognitive science program out of our courses, right? And then you might combine psychology, AI, neuroscience, and philosophy, for example. Or you have the dream to build your own social media business. So what do you need for that, right? Maybe you want to know something about international business. Maybe you need to know something about international law. Maybe you need some programming skills, some literature skills in order to build up this business, right? So depending on what you need, what you want to do, you can build your program to fit those needs, your curiosity. Now at UCG, we think that very few really meaningful things can be done by a single person. For a lot of problems, for a lot of big projects, you need to have a good team that brings into very diverse interdisciplinary perspectives. And for that reason, kind of a very big part of our program is not just disciplinary knowledge and general academic skills, but we also want to train you how to work together with people that are very different from you, that have very different knowledge, that come from a very different culture, from a very different social background. And we want to teach you how to collaborate, how to build bridges, how to work together with a variety of different people. And this is, I think, very important also for employers these days. So we often hear that, well, we really want people who can collaborate in a team, who can function in a team. That's a really important career skills, which UCG students really are good at. So how do we do this? We have this project line in our program. Every year, students do a project. And in these projects, students come together that normally in their studies focus on very different disciplines, and they come together in the project and work together on a shared issue. And these projects are always presented to each other at the end of the year. Typically, there's a nice social event as well, with sometimes a barbecue or some drinks and snacks where everyone comes together and celebrates what they have been doing during the year. And something that already happens quite a lot and that we want to build on in the future even more is to involve external stakeholders in these projects. So we have projects that work together with Indigenous people in Canada, or as you see in the picture here, there's a long project with multiple iterations where our students work together with wheelchair users on exploring to which extent our city is accessible for wheelchair users, how you can make it more accessible, what the perspective of people in a wheelchair is, and so on. So these projects are not only designed for you to learn something, but they are also designed to give you an opportunity to make a real difference to the world. So maybe you're curious about how all these things look as a normal program in your education. So in the Netherlands, we have academic years that consist of 4 blocks of 10 weeks each. And typically in each block, you would take 3 courses. And at UCG, as I said before, we have courses that train you in academic skills. We have courses that give you disciplinary knowledge. And then we have courses that help you develop interdisciplinary project skills. And in your first year, you will come into touch with all these different types of courses. So in the first 2 blocks, you will take core electives that allow you to explore the different academic fields that we offer at UCG. You'll get some training in basic academic skills and academic research, and you will take the 2 courses, Challenges of Modern Society, which introduce you to some of the big problems our society faces today, and how an interdisciplinary approach can help with engaging and working on these challenges. In the 3rd and 4th block, you will be able to take electives in fields of study of your choosing. You can combine, you can specialize. You'll get your first research and methodology training. That can be something in mathematics, that can be qualitative research, can be statistics. There's a lot of options there for you to choose. And at the end of the first year, you will do your first project, which can also be on a wide variety of different topics. So I think the program that we offer at UCG, with these very many choices that you have, is already quite unique. But I think what's even more special is the way we teach, our educational vision. And this is very different from most other university programs that you will find. So in many normal degree programs, you have large lectures, you have one exam at the very end of your study, and then everyone is kind of in a rush the last 2 weeks to learn for the exam. It's sometimes a multiple choice exam or something like this. And what you will often see in these programs is that, well, maybe the first class, most students are still in the lecture, and then the second class, half of students are there, and so on. And in the end, you have 25 people sitting in a 500-person lecture. And that's not very fun. And you also don't learn a lot. So the educational vision at UCG is quite different. We have small classes with a lot of contact with your lecturers. The average class size at this point is something around 19 students. You will meet twice per week. You also sometimes have contact with the lecturers outside of the classroom. They will typically recognize you, right? Know your name, and will be happy to have a chat, talk about academia, talk about their studies. And during class, the education is also very active. You're not just sitting there, you're working together with your peers. You will continuously be active with the material. You don't just start to study at the very end of the course, but throughout. And you will be challenged to individually do research, do little projects, do interesting things with the knowledge, apply it. Sometimes there's even opportunities to carry out research together with our faculty. Sometimes our students publish research articles together with faculty. So there's a lot of ways in which you can engage with the material through classes. We also make heavy use of innovative teaching methods and assessment methods. So you'll not just sit there and listen and then do a kind of exam in the end. You will do all kinds of sometimes weird and interesting activities throughout classes, right? So I sometimes ask my students to do an artwork representing a philosophical question. In a course on decision making, I play a board game with my students to introduce some concepts that they will afterwards kind of in a very rigorous way have to study. And a lot of our staff members kind of come up with very interesting things, creative ways to engage with the material. And you might ask, why are we doing this? Well, it sounds maybe fun. Hopefully it sounds fun to you, but it's not just this, right? It's also effective. So the way we teach leads to students to learn more, right? Our students are very happy with the type of education we provide. They are typically disappointed when they take a class at a different faculty. They come back and say, well, next time I rather take a class with an UCG again. And we also see that that the students are more successful in their program, right? They pass their courses more often, and they also take much less time to finish their degree program. So overall, in the Netherlands, it takes around 4 years to complete a 3-year bachelor program. And within our program, it's pretty close to 3 years. So there's nearly 1 year difference that an average student take between the average bachelor program in the Netherlands and our program. So I think these things show that there's really there's a reason behind doing this type of education, doing this small scale intensive type of education that we provide at UCG. Good. So this is what I wanted to say. I don't know whether there were any questions.
I don't see any right now, Ben. So maybe some other questions will come, but maybe we can give the floor to Richard for now.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much. I will...
Oh, wait, there's one question. Can I look back at this recording maybe to help convince my parents? Yes, absolutely. I will send this recording to every participant. So thank you so much, Ben. For our participants, Ben will be here. So if you have any questions afterwards or during Richard's session, there's plenty of time. So for now, I will give the floor to Richard. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Before I start, I have to first share my screen somehow. Can someone confirm that you all hear me? Yes, all right. So, tools, desktop, let me share my screen. Come on. Is my screen shared now? It isn't. Start screen share. Oh man. Do you see my screen? Yes or no?
No, we don't.
No, not yet. But I also, maybe I need to stop sharing my screen, and I don't find the button to do this now.
Ah, so it's all your fault.
Probably.
No, Ben, you already stopped sharing.
Okay, so what do I do to get to sharing my screen?
You go to
This?
Tools and then click on Desktop Share.
And is something happening now?
I'm afraid not.
Come
on. Richard, maybe you can share it with me and I send it to me and I can share it?
Of course, yes, I can do so.
Can you try again, Richard? I think I clicked on that you are presenting.
All right. Still is nothing is happening here. Okay, I will send you an email, Marike. Okay, so in the meanwhile, I'm going to start a bit. I hear that some people have their mics on, which is of course great, but I also think I hear a lawnmower, which is less great. So I'm going to introduce myself first, and then I hope that in the meanwhile, Marike will manage to have my presentation shared with you. My name is Richard Jong Apin. I am working here at the University College of Groningen as an associate professor in economics. And I am teaching courses related to economics and statistics. And my favorite course is the course Political Economy, which is a mixture of partly political science and partly economics. And today I'm going to talk about one of the new assignments in that course. So I'm sort of going to use you as a guinea pig to test some materials. And in order to make it successful, I hope that you will participate here and there. So there are a couple of questions that will pop up, and it would be most awesome if you then could use the chat box to share your views on this. So this is my slideshow. That's great. Marike, since I don't have any control over my slides, you have to be my assistant and scroll through the slides at some point in time. So maybe I should use a magic word such that you know when you have to turn to the next slide. Is that an idea? All right. What am I going to talk about? Well, you see it here straight in your face. I am going to talk about hatred. And I already said, you know, my specialty is economics, but you already said in the introduction, one of the aims of UCG is to look at problems through an interdisciplinary lens. And the objective of today is to look at the problem of hatred through an interdisciplinary lens. And when we are doing so, at some point, we are going to use all our, let's say, provisional insights into a framework that economists are using to study the so-called market for hatred. And you see in your screen right now a picture, and I am curious to hear whether you know what I am currently hinting upon if you see this picture. So please fill the chat with anything you think that is going on over here. So I see USA polarization and I see debate. So Susanna, do you happen to remember or know which debate this was? No, somebody else maybe. No one is aware of this debate. If I say that out of this debate, a song was made, maybe you know what I'm talking about. It was a hit on TikTok. It was a hit on Instagram. No one? So I'm staring at a chat in which nothing is eating the pets. Indeed, indeed. They're eating the pets. And Connor, do you know what this was about, this statement of eating the pets? Or somebody else, of course. Immigration. And what was, and yeah, immigrants from Haiti, indeed. So, Marike, can you turn to the next slide? So here you have the entire quote of Donald Trump during one of the presidential debates, and well, he was voted in. And what he literally said was, in Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what is happening in our country, and that's a shame. And do you know what he's trying to do here in the debate? Create an internal enemy, fear mongering, create hatred towards immigrants, create fear. All these statements are spot on. And why would a candidate like Donald Trump, why would he want to do this? To gain more votes. Now, in a nutshell, this is going to be the summary of the lecture, that apparently political candidates under some circumstances have an incentive to spread hatred with the aim of gaining more votes. And we are going to study this now in this mini lecture through this interdisciplinary lens, in which we are going to look at the relevance of all sorts of fields of study. And Marike, can you go to the next slide, please? So, first of all, we have to deal with the question: what is this hatred anyway? So, if you are going to take a university study, then it's very important that everybody is on the same page and knows what we are talking about. So what we have to do here is we have to conceptualize the concept of hatred. And maybe Marike can immediately go to the next slide, because then I'm going to conceptualize it for you. So hatred is an intense and deep aversion or hostility toward someone or something. And that someone can be a human being, it can be an entire nation, it can be a people, it can be a race, it can be a religion, etc., etc. So it often stems from fear, prejudice, injustice, and can lead to harmful actions. So it can lead to oppression, it can lead to violence. And well, I'm not here to market myself, but I did some research on this, and in one of my publications we showed that especially in sub-Saharan Africa, ethnic violence is especially triggered when these countries start to democratize, and because of exactly the topic that we are talking about right here, right now. Politicians having these incentives to spread hatred, which is then believed by the electorate, which then may trigger an upswing of violence. The next slide, please. So my next question to you: from which fields of study can we analyze this topic? I already gave away that we are going to study it from an economics point of view, but what are other fields of study from which we can learn to study this topic in a better way? Psychology, yes, Lulu, that's very correct. Maybe you can also motivate why you are mentioning this field of study. And I see that Susanna and Connor are mentioning sociology. So can you also motivate why sociology is important here? History is also spot on, yes. Sociology, because it's about interaction between different social groups, indeed. And are there maybe more fields of study that we can incorporate here? Yeah, to study the brain and motivations for hatred. Business. Oh, that is interesting, Susanna. Maybe you can motivate that one, because I didn't think of business, but you could be well right. Philosophy. Yeah, how people look at the world. Noah, that's also a nice one. By the way, philosophy will, on the next slide, not be in my overview, but I definitely agree that you can also study hatred from a philosophical point of view. Anthropology, indeed. And Susanna came now with an answer why business may be relevant. Business with different entities and also hate within the organizations, the reverse side of DEY. Okay, fair enough, fair enough. So we have collected a couple of fields of study that may be of relevance here. Now, what is the beauty? Maybe this is already a spoiler, so spoiler alert. What is the beauty of studying at UCG is that all these people, with all these different interests in anthropology, history, economics, business, psychology, sociology, they gather in my political economy course, and they are sharing their different theories and their different views on the subject matter. Now, as I said, this is exactly what this assignment will be about, and so far so good, because you are our ideal guinea pigs here. Hey, Mike, can you go to the next slide? So here are just a couple of thoughts why psychology may matter. Now, generally, people have beliefs about how the world works, and people tend to feel discomfort when they are confronted with conflicting beliefs. So I may believe that you as an individual are a bad person. However, if there is no evidence that you are, no, let me put it the other way around. If there is all of a sudden some statement that you are indeed a bad person, then I may well just confirm my beliefs about this and draw some utility, some well-being out of this. Now, it may also well be that somebody is disproving that you are a bad person. However, if this is contrasting my belief, I may disregard the evidence against you being a bad person. So this is often what is happening with hate spreading messages, that they are targeted to people that are already inclined to believe that this other group may be bad. Now, another theory is the theory of emotional contagion, that hatred can spread through social groups. Maybe you've ever heard of the term groupthink, and that is that if people within a group are sharing the same belief, then these beliefs tend to become more extreme. So definitely psychology is a field of study to take into account when you are studying this topic. The next slide, please. This was already mentioned in the chat. Sociology is about social groups. And social groups, they are interacting with each other in society in different ways. Now, for example, social groups can have competition over resources. And one of my, unfortunately, favorite examples is the country where my family is from Suriname, where you have different ethnic groups. And ever since the independence of that country, they are fighting over the gold reserves, and they are fighting over the aluminium reserves. And because of their internal struggles, this country, even though it is rich in natural resources, has never been able to grow economically. the social identity theory is kind of reinforcing this. So people are often thinking about in groups relative to out groups, and people want to be part of a group, and because of this, wanting, they start to act in a way that, let's say, reinforces the dynamics in a group. And by doing so, it is also making the out-group more and more distant from the in-group. And because of the groups interacting less and less with each other, this may lead to societal conflict. The next slide, please. Because what this lecture is about, and also what the political economy course is about, is can we now mold these insights from anthropology, from sociology, from psychology into a model or a framework, if you will, that can be used to understand outcomes in society. And to get back to Donald Trump at the beginning of the program, can we understand why Donald Trump is doing this? Can we understand why this is particularly going on at this moment in history? Can we understand why, in certain political context, with certain political institutions, these manifestations are more likely than in other contexts? So that is what we are going to try in the next, I don't know, 10, 50 minutes. But before I'm doing so, please take a deep breath. And if you have any question, then please let me know. So, and I'm staring at the chat. And of course, in the meanwhile, I am the one here who's taking a deep breath. Nothing in the chat, so let me just continue. And if you have a question or a remark, just let me know. I'm willing to interact with you via the chat. And if I see something popping up, I immediately turn to you. So in political science, so we all know, of course, what political science is about. Political science is about power and authority. And let us just, for the sake of simplicity here, focus on a democratic context. So on a context where there are elections and politicians are competing to get most votes. And in order to do so, they are campaigning, they are advertising themselves, they are debating with the quote unquote enemy, so with people with other partisan views. And by doing so, they want to influence the electorate such that when they arrive in the voting booth, they will dedicate their vote to this candidate. Now, we started already saying, hey, this Donald Trump guy, he may be willing to spread hatred in order to gain more votes. So from his point of view, and now I'm slowly turning to economics, from his point of view, spreading hatred is a benefit. Now, my question to you, is there, or maybe may there also be a cost to that? Polarization, yes, indeed, Connor. So if you are spreading hatred, you may put groups up against each other, and that, yes, that may lead to social unrest and even violence in the streets. Is there another? Could there also be a personal cost for the candidate, him or herself? An attack, yeah, from the opponent. That could well be. Yeah. What I like that you are already thinking into the extreme cases here. lose some voters. So why would you lose some voters? Or could you lose some voters? Yeah, indeed. They have to appeal to different groups on a number of different issues. So your vote is, of course, an approval of a package of policies. Moral compass? Oh, nice. We talked about identity already, and if you have a strong moral compass, then you may act according to that compass, indeed. Yes, more extreme voters targeted will be in favor of you. So I don't know how much you know about Dutch politics, but this is definitely something that was going on in the Dutch elections quite recently. So maybe I should help you a little here. What if the voters find out that the hate spreading message was a lie? What kind of cost may that have for well, let us say Trump? Yeah, it damages his image. Now, economists call this reputation cost. And unfortunately, news channels nowadays spend a lot of time and energy to fact checking, because a politician is free of charge in principle to speak his mind, to say anything he likes. But of course, if this is contrasting the facts, well, maybe you should have some institution like the media to tell the electorate, hey, this may be wrong. Marika, can I have the next slide? So this is actually what we are already talking about. We are talking about incentives that politicians may have, the benefits of spreading hatred, and the cost of spreading hatred. And of course, the same holds for the voters. The voters may have a benefit of believing hatred. For example, we already touched upon social identity theory, and we already touched upon cognitive dissonance theory, but there may also be a cost to consuming hatred. Next slide, please. So this is, so if you know something about economics, this is a familiar graph in economics, because you see here a depiction of a market. And in my course, we are studying the market for hatred. And every market has a supply side and it has a demand side. Now, we already spoke of the supply side because politicians, they may benefit from spreading hatred. So you could imagine the more they benefit, the more hatred messages they are willing to spread into society. Now, the blue, or is it purple? I cannot see that well. The blue or purple curve here is illustrating the supply of hatred, an upward sloping curve showing a positive relation between the benefits for the politician and the amount of hate spreading messages. What you also see here, and that's immediately my next question to you, is a downward sloping curve illustrating the demand for hatred from the perspective of society. So from the perspective of the voters. So my question to you is, can you explain why this curve is downward sloping? People get fatigued? Yeah, well, that is an interesting one, Connor. Of course, there is the so-called diminishing marginal return of consumption. And the other one, that was Lucas. I have to scroll back because all of a sudden the chat fills itself. Maybe candidates lose legitimacy if it's just based on hatred. Oh yeah, well that's more. You are thinking in the same way as Connor does. And then we have Max here. An electorate can become sick or tired. It's the same argument. Oh, that's a cool argument. We have to take that on board definitely. Is there any other argument that you could think of? Yeah, for strategic reasons, definitely. Now I'm going to give the argument that I had in mind away here. If you think about costs and benefits once more, you guys so far have focused on the benefits. At some point, this additional unit of hatred doesn't give you as much satisfaction as the previous unit of hatred. But you could also think about costs. So if for you the cost of finding out the truth are the cost of consuming hatred are very high, you are not willing to consume a lot of hatred. If the cost of consuming hatred are very low, then you are willing to consume a lot of hatred. Now, when is this cost of hatred generally low? So when there is a lot of hatred, yeah, yeah. So when you all are already in a dynamics in society that there is a lot of hatred. So this polarization that popped up earlier in the presentation, at the beginning of the presentation, is a self-enforcing mechanism, and that's of course a little bit scary. And when it's very close to your moral beliefs, indeed, yeah, yeah. So if you think that this other group is bad, you costlessly accept the hate spreading message. Yeah. Now let me put in an economic argument. Let's do a thought experiment. Let us suppose that you are living in a neighborhood with a lot of people from the other group, say, and the people from this other group are your neighbors. Your children are befriended with their children, or maybe you are befriended with them. This guy has a shop where you always do your shopping. So what is then the cost of finding out the truth? I also see that somebody is raising the hand. Please. Not? Okay, then I continue. So nobody is reacting to the thought experiment. Well, let me do that. So if you have a lot of economic interaction with the other group, then of course it is in your best interest to find out what the truth is, because people benefit from trading economically. So if somebody then spreads some hatred, well, you better think twice before you are going to accept this message. Likewise, if this person from the other group is your neighbor, for you, it is not very difficult to find out what the truth is. One more argument to make: if you have the same religion, say, or if you speak the same language, it is also relatively cheap to find out the truth, because it's more likely that you have easy interaction with each other. So this explains the downward sloping curve here. Now, of course, we don't know exactly. I don't want to go to the next slide, Marika. No, I want to go to previous slides. Yeah, I want to go here. We don't know exactly where the equilibrium is, but we know that somewhere there is an equilibrium. Now, Marika, can you now skip 2 or 3 slides? One more, please. And there I would like to go. So we know that there is somewhere a point where supply and demand intersect. And as said, we don't know really where that point is. But what we can do is we can analyze what happens in society if one of the variables that we have been touching upon is changing. And that's exactly what my class is about. So to just take the last bullet point here, also for the sake of time, if a voter has to make more cost to find out the truth, then it's more likely that this voter is believing a hate-spreading message. So this will, for example, happen when there is little economic or social interaction between the in and the out group. So what I'm doing here is I'm using the insights of sociology and psychology to draw an economic implication of the model. Now, what is, of course, very cool about economics is that this can lead to new policies. So, Marika, to the very last slide, please. By looking at this problem through different lenses, we are able to think about policies of the future. And policies of the future, of course, have the aim to make the future world a better place. And I'm very happy that Ben also touched upon this in his presentation, because that is what we like to do here at the University College Groningen. So I'm sorry that I skipped the last 2-3 slides, but this was my presentation. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you so much, Richard, for this presentation. I think that now maybe we have a couple of minutes left for some questions for Richard or Ben, if there are any. So let's wait for...
maybe you should focus on the program and not so much on the lecture.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Or about the area that the lecture was about, of course, about your field. If there are any questions about that. Fantastic lecture. Fantastic insight into your teaching. Yes, very nice. Thank you. All right. I think that there are not a lot of questions coming. If you want to digest this all a little bit, and if you have some more questions later on, everyone's free, of course, to contact me. And if you have questions for Ben or Richard, I can always set them through. Oh, Richard, there is a question. What kind of assessment methods would you have in a class like this?
Okay, I already turned my camera off, but I can respond to this. So if you're taking a political economy class with me, then unfortunately, there is an exam, so an old-fashioned written exam. However, and that is very important here at UCG, that is not the only assessment. So apart from the exam, let me think, have two more assessments in political economy. Related to this subject, we have an assignment in which you are asked to think about policies that could decrease hate-spreading messages in society, or fake news, if you will. And this is assessed by means of a public debate. So what we are doing is we are mimicking a sort of parliament in which people are debating with each other. and you are assessed on the basis of the arguments you are making in the debate. Then there is another assignment in my course, because this is not the only topic in my course that we are talking about, and that is populism. And you will get a couple of lectures about the economics of populism. And then you are asked to write an anti-populism manifesto. So there you are assessed on your knowledge and understanding about populism by arguing in favor of the opposite. And then some students decide to make an actual manifesto. Some students decide to make a YouTube video. Some students decide to what do we have more? To make a poster, etc., etc. So I hope this is an answer to your question.
Great, thank you, Richard. There's one more question, Richard. I don't know if you still have some time to answer that.
Yeah, so is that the last one?
Yeah, so the question is it important to learn those definitions, such as the definition of hatred, in those exact words on the tests, or can we also interpret them in other words?
Yeah. That's a good one. That's an interesting one. You know, if you are in academia, it is very important that everybody knows what you are talking about. Now, of course, you will not be punished if you do not use exactly the same wording. However, especially when it deals with concepts that are important to the course, your definition should not be multi-interpretable. And for example, like if you speak of hatred, not very important if you are using slightly different wording. But for example, maybe you've heard in my presentation, if you speak about diminishing marginal returns, which is a really an economics concept, then you have to be very specific with what you mean. So it depends a little bit, but generally speaking, yes, you have to be precise there.
All right, thank you, Richard. I know you had to leave at 4:30 sharp, so thank you so much for your time and the interesting lecture. If there are any other questions for Richard, feel free to send me an email and I can respond to it. So thanks again. Ben is still with us, so if there are any questions for Ben on the contents of our program or anything else related to assessment, please feel free to drop that in the chat box. I can see that there are some questions about application things related to the Bachelor in Law and English and Culture. So just to let you know, I am not involved in any of those bachelor programs or their entry requirements. So any admission requirement questions for other programs, please ask them at the Central Admissions Office. Contact details are in the chat box. And then a question from Susanna. Ben, maybe you can answer that. What are the usual course assessments? If there are any usual course assessments, of course.
Yeah, I think there are no usual course assessment at UCG. So we have a lot of variety in course assessments, and it really depends on the course you're taking. And it really goes basically all over the place. So I know that some people do podcasts as assessment moments, some people do videos, some people do art projects, some people do research projects where students do a little bit of data collection, data analysis. There are also kind of normal exams. There are also normal essays. And there are presentations. There's a lot of group work because we think group work is very important, not only because we want you to learn to work in a group, but because in talking with your peers, you learn a lot, right? So we think that education is not something that comes from us and is like poured into your mind, but it's a collaborative effort, right? We want you to learn from your peers. We want to learn from you, right? So that's why a collaboration is important for us. But there's really lots of different ways. Yeah, so there's no normal type of assessment. That's very specific. that would be very un-UCG.
Another question, which is, what happens if I can't join the classes some days?
So in principle, UCG has an attendance requirement. That means we want everyone to be in all the classes. And you might think that our students don't like this, and some probably don't. But I think the interesting thing is that most of our students really like it, because it means that you work together with your friends, you sit together, your peers are there, there's nice class atmosphere, everyone is working and learning together. And that's something which a lot of students miss with other programs, where they don't have a community, they don't have any interaction with other students, and I think that's leaves a lot wanted for an education if you don't have that. But of course, we understand that sometimes you are sick, and sometimes there's something important happening in your life that prevents you from coming. So there's kind of a little bit of a leeway, but in principle, we want everyone to come. And if there's a good reason for you not to be able to join a class, then we are looking into this. But it's possible, Bell, that was your question about classes at UCG, or was your question about the presentations for the information sessions?
So Ben, I interpreted the question the same way about the actual classes taking place at UCG once you're a student here. So it's nice that everybody now knows a bit more about the attendance rules and expectations that we have. But Belle, I think you are talking about the digital UCG week, which is not mandatory, of course. Yeah. And you're not a student of ours, so there is no requirement for attending these information sessions. It's, of course, completely optional. But Ben, thank you for sharing about the attendance rate. That is an important aspect, of course, and good for everybody to know once they're a student here.
I think, Maliki, you said that these sessions are recorded, right? So if you can't join, then you can just watch it afterwards, because you will send it around, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And if you have specific question, then you can always email Marike, and even if it's question about that are relevant for me or something like this, and then Malike will just forward those questions to me.
So I think we'll wait for half a minute longer in case any questions pop up. Feel free to drop them in the chat box. For those of you who attended today, thank you so much again for being here. I want to take this last moment to tell you a bit about what else is on the schedule. So tomorrow we'll have a session with a couple of our students who are also a part of the study association that we have here, Kairos. Like Ben said, we have an very active students community. And of course, they are in the midst of it, so they can tell you all about what it's like to be a student here. And on Thursday, we have a couple of members from the guidance team who will share more about how they guide you throughout the program, throughout the years. So that's also very interesting, especially if you're planning on having an international aspect in our program, for example, by studying abroad, or if you want to do an internship abroad. These are also very interesting sessions. So if you have time tomorrow and the day after, feel free to join these final sessions. Okay, while I was talking, nothing happened in the chat, so I assume See you tomorrow. Oh, great. Thank you, Noah. So nice to see that you are joining tomorrow as well. So thanks again. Have a very nice evening if you're on the same time zone. And thank you, Ben, again for the presentation. It was very interesting and a lot of information about our program. And thank you all for attending. And I wish you a good evening and see you around.